All right, here's the script based on the text you provided. Work a typical 8 to 5 job. Come home and typically drown a half to a third of a 750 milliliter bottle of rum or whiskey a night. Don't particularly feel like stopping, but leaving it up to the community. Cheers, gonna go get another glass. Wow, I honestly didn't expect this overwhelming level of support. I figured given the subreddit and the topic matter that this would be labeled a shitpost and downvoted into the void. I didn't post this to farm for karma or to try to gain anything really, otherwise I wouldn't have used a throwaway. I posted this with the knowledge that I really need to stop or at least limit my drinking. I set an arbitrary number of upvotes because I didn't expect this score to ever hit a positive threshold. The outpouring of support and advice from the community is far beyond what I ever expected or even dreamed to be possible. I guess this post has really just made me admit something to myself that I've known for a while. I've been telling myself it was in my best interest to stop drinking. Heck, I even started making attempts to lower my intake prior to my vacation a few weeks ago, and it was going fairly well. My reward for limiting my intake was being bashed over vacation for still drinking too much. In the real world, I come from a family of alcoholics and drug addicts. I never really get support, rather only criticism. So I'll wrap this up to say this. I appreciate each and every one of you who left a positive comment or sent an uplifting message. It really means a lot. My plan is to taper myself off by reducing my intake of alcohol by 1 to 2 drinks a day for the next 2 weeks. September 1st marks my first sober day in months. A lot of people asked for updates, and I don't quite know where I'd even post such a thing, but I'll probably head over to beginning that day. Again, thank you. Over 400,000 people have viewed this. As a software engineer, this may be the most prolific thing I've ever written. Literally, more people have viewed this than live in my somewhat large city. It's absolutely astounding. I'm committed to bettering myself, and I've seen hundreds of comments from Redditors telling me to update them. If anyone has a good idea where updates would be best served, let me know. Now for the 2-week update. Well, I set my goal to be sober by September 1st. I tried to taper down a bit before quitting, but I ended up rushing it a bit to meet my September 1st goal. On Monday, I had 6 to 7 drinks. On Tuesday, I had 6. On Wednesday, I had 5. And on Thursday, I had 3. I spent the last 2-ish years consuming a pretty heavy amount of alcohol. And in the last 8 months, I spent nearly no days sober. In fact, April forward, I hadn't spent a single day sober. I limited my drinking to the evenings, but I was consuming roughly 1/2 a male 750 of whiskey an evening, sometimes 1 to 2 drinks more. I feel all right now, and I'm just hoping I don't end up developing DTs within the next day or 2. My heart rate has remained around 90 to 100, my anxiety is through the roof, and I feel moderate disassociation. I haven't really had any shakes, hallucinations, and while I do feel a bit nauseous, I haven't vomited. However, I do feel so much better knowing that I was consciously able to limit my drinking leading up to my goal date. I feel good knowing that while there is a lot of alcohol in the house and that I could easily go open a bottle, I'm making the decision not to. Now for a few comments. A commenter shared that it wasn't until a few days in that they felt ready to pour out their bottle, but they were grateful they did it the very minute they felt able to. They didn't delay, didn't overthink it, and now they feel such relief that to drink again would require them to make an effort. Then the original poster replied, "My biggest fear is the rapid onset of severe withdrawal symptoms." That was the main logic behind keeping some alcohol. The other reason is that my girlfriend likes having beer in the fridge for when the mood strikes her. Now for the 1-week update. Been alcohol-free since the 1st of the month, only a bit more than a week in, and things are looking up. I'm more productive at work and home. I'm taking interest in things outside of work again. It's amazing how much time you actually have left in your day when you're sober. The first 2 to 3 days were hell. Days 4 and 5 left me feeling more energized, and now I feel pretty much normal. My only real complaint currently is very restless sleep and strange dreams, which in turn cause me to have a horrible time waking up in the morning. Overall, things are going well. I'll probably do one final update at the end of the month in this post. Now for the 4-day update. I've been sober since the 1st of this month, and honestly, it's been pretty easy going. The first few days of withdrawals were incredibly mild compared to what I was expecting. I've spent the last 3 years drinking incredibly heavily. I can pretty confidently say that in the 3 years that I've been of legal drinking age, I probably haven't gone a single full week without drinking something, and definitely not more than 2 weeks without getting drunk. In January of this year, things began to spiral out of control. I took a cruise back in January and spent nearly 2 weeks drinking 15+ drinks a day. Once we got back home, I calmed down a bit. However, as April rolled around, I started drinking more and more, with no sober days in between. It got to a point sometime around mid-April/May that I was consuming more than half a male 750 bottle of whiskey a night, and some nights I was going through more than 0.5 liters. I can pretty confidently say that from April 1st, August 31st, I drank a minimum of 5 to 6 drinks an evening, and I was probably topping out somewhere in excess of 20 to 30 on the weekends. I've been telling myself for years that I don't have a problem. For one, I kicked the habit back when I was 18 after a DUI. On top of that, if I ever had to drive or was in a scenario where I needed to drink in moderation, I was more than happy to not drink or to limit my drinks to 1 per hour. On top of that, for the most part, I constrained my drinking to the evenings, 5:11 p.m., and the only time I deviated from this was when I had the day off work or it was a weekend. Even then, I tried to wait until later in the afternoon. That being said, I had started seeing the physical changes for well over a year. I had gained quite a bit of weight. My sleep was somewhat erratic. I was constantly drenched in sweat, and my motivation to do anything was pretty much abysmal. So here I am, 13, nearly 14 days in, and I feel nearly fine. I've been able to go out to dinner with my girlfriend and opt not to drink even when she is. I have the fridge stocked with plenty of beer, and I've had little to no desire to drink any of them. Don't get me wrong, a nice cold beer at the end of a long day of work sounds like a great way to ease myself into bed, but simply not having one also seems like an equally good and healthier option. My only real qualm about not having one before bed is that ever since I quit drinking, I simply cannot wake up in the mornings. My alarms go off, I somehow turn them off, but I don't remember a thing. I feel like I'm sleeping okay, but the mornings are brutal. Now on to the real reason I made this post. A few friends asked if I wanted to host the GGG Canelo fight this Saturday, as I'd hosted Mayweather-McGregor, and I have a generally nice place to watch it. I obviously agreed, and had no qualms about doing so. However, my friends enjoy drinking. Not always necessarily in excess, but I do expect the booze to be flowing rather freely. When I host a party, I try to make it a point to stay pretty coherent and sociable, but drinking has always played a key role. Honestly, just thinking about having all my friends over without me having at least a few drinks gives me some pretty serious anxiety. I've had pretty awful social anxiety most of my life, and drinking, even in moderation, makes handling it far more enjoyable for me. I know deep down that if I were to drink Saturday, I wouldn't relapse, I wouldn't overdo it, and I wouldn't throw away my progress I've made. I know this because I've set a goal for myself, and I can consciously control myself when I've set them. That being said, I also set a goal for myself not to drink, period, and by breaking that goal, I will feel as if I've failed. Regardless of the fact that I know it'd be a one-off thing, I'd still have betrayed my own word. Now for the 1.5 years later update, back to sobriety. So a couple years ago, I made a drunken post about stopping drinking. It was a lot of things. A shitpost, a throwaway karma grab, but also a genuine cry for help. That post forced me to take a long, hard look in the mirror and gauge what I was doing with my life. I didn't have a problem. I didn't have any real issues. I wasn't an alcoholic. At least, that's what I told myself as I made a beeline to the liquor store at the last minute when I remembered I was out of liquor at home. When I made my original post, I made a statement about getting sober for a year. Truth be told, I fell a bit short. I made it about 2 months before I cracked open another bottle. I didn't immediately dive back into drinking half a liter of liquor a day, but I did start drinking again. At first, it was just a few drinks on the weekends, then one or two some nights during the week. Around the holidays, the in-laws came to visit, and while they were here, I drank a bit heavily. After they left, I didn't really downsize my drinking that much. Around February 2018, I slowed back down. I was still drinking most, if not every evening, but it was only 1 or 2 drinks a night. That soon became 3 or 4 a night, and I could feel old habits returning. Throughout 2018, I worked on myself a lot. I started going back to the gym every day, I started eating right, and I started addressing my drinking again. By all measures, my drinking was probably at a socially acceptable level, but it wasn't at a personally acceptable level. When I did my yearly company blood draw in October, I was pleasantly surprised that all of my blood work came back fantastic. By all measures, aside from my weight, on paper I looked perfectly healthy. This was a far cry from my horrible blood draws from previous years. However, I still was not super content with my choices. I had initially replaced a significant amount of my drinking with marijuana, but I began mixing both alcohol and marijuana at levels comparable to where I was before. However, this time, something was different. I felt like I had significantly more control over my vices, but it's somewhat difficult for me to explain. However, from roughly August to December, I was still using alcohol in moderation, but I felt like I finally had control over it. Starting about 3 weeks ago, I finally had my real test. I've begun experiencing strange episodes. They're very similar to panic attacks or anxiety attacks. Currently, my physicians are running every test under the sun, and everything keeps coming back completely perfect. It's an odd ordeal, but for the time being, I'm on some medication to prevent my pulse and blood pressure from randomly spiking. The real test came when I was put on the medication. My physician said that I could likely continue my current lifestyle without any complications. I could continue using all the substances I was using, and I'd be fine. However, I ended up surprising myself. As soon as I started the medication, I stopped everything. And I truly mean everything. From the minute I started the medication, I've put down caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, marijuana, soft drinks, energy drinks, etc. I have been saying this entire time that I have control, and I had multiple stints where I would stop for weeks or months, but I always had some apprehension to quitting or another vice to turn to. This time, it felt different. I still have liquor in the cabinet, beer in the fridge, marijuana in the house, and yet I don't really feel tempted. I can watch my fiancé smoke, and I can mix drinks for my friends, and I don't waver in the slightest. I managed to give up all of my biggest vices in a single swoop, and I don't feel a single tinge of hesitance or regret. Now for a few important comments. Commenter: this is awesome, amazing, and so inspiring. Thank you for sharing. I did indeed find this post by viewing the top posts, and I'm so glad to hear that you didn't let some small slip-ups get the best of you. What do you think it was about the medication that triggered you to make this change? Just a wake-up call of truly needing to get your shoot together, health-wise. I know that marijuana isn't unhealthy for you, but I don't necessarily think it's good for you either. Coming from someone getting over a serious marijuana addiction, it is a true testament to your willpower when you can have the substances around and be around people imbibing and not be tempted. I'm so proud of you, stranger. Keep on keeping on. Then, the original poster replied, I did my yearly blood draw for work back in October 2016, and it was atrocious. Nothing was dangerously high, but they definitely weren't great values for a 23-year-old. In 2017, I had taken a break from drinking a couple of months prior to my blood draw, and some of my values improved, but it was still pretty mediocre at best. In 2018, I had slowed down my drinking, at least the quantity I drank, but not the frequency. On August 1st, 2018, I hit the highest weight I've ever been. I immediately started making changes. I didn't stop drinking, but I again reduced how much I was having, 2 to 8 ounces of liquor a day. I was going to the gym 5 days a week, eating better, and just working on being better in general. When I went to do my 2018 blood draw, pretty much everything was great. Cholesterol was a bit high, but not dangerously so. My blood pressure was normal, my weight was down 40 to 45 pounds since August, Liver enzymes were great, everything was awesome. Over the holidays, I skipped the gym, but I did do quite a bit of hiking while on vacation and still maintained my diet. In fact, I'm still losing weight. When whatever health condition I currently have started affecting me, I simply knew it was time to just put everything down for a while. I'm dedicated to living a healthier life, and I can't do that if I'm drinking and smoking every single night. I'll gladly go back to smoking on occasion and maybe having a drink here and there at some point in the future, but I'm not going to continue putting my health at risk while being a sedentary lush. Now for the 12 days later update. 23 days in, and still zero desire to drink. So I've been 100% sober from all substances, alcohol, Zaza, and caffeine since February 12th, and I still have zero desire to break the streak. I was getting ready for bed this evening, and it occurred to me that despite having a house full of alcohol and Zaza, and a partner that uses both regularly, in moderation, I've had no real desire to use either. I'm more productive than I've ever been, and I'm more than happy to mix drinks for my partner and friends without even the slightest temptation to have some myself. It's a strange sensation. Every other time I've attempted sobriety or taken a break, it has felt like an accomplishment when I managed to avoid drinking for another day. This time is different. I'm not even aware that I'm not drinking. The fact that I made it another day doesn't even cross my mind. I'm not sure what's so different about this time, but it's pretty awesome. Now for a few important comments. Commenter, wow, this is great. What, if anything, do you think made this time different for you? I'm really not sure. Every other time I've quit, each day felt like an accomplishment. It was like going to the gym. It required conscious effort and thought. This time, it feels like breathing. It doesn't feel like I need or even want it. I'm fine being sober, and I'm finding things to occupy my time. I don't need the alcohol or Zaza to make things more entertaining or to escape from anything. Original poster explains, honestly, health reasons are my number one reason for getting sober. I don't currently have any alcohol-related health issues, and I want to keep it that way. I was tired of the daily drinking and the huge time sink alcohol had become. Now for a mini update. 6 days later, I figured I'd come back and update everyone. In 2017, after my last update, I stayed sober for a couple of months. After that, I felt it was safe to return to drinking in moderation, and I did. For a while, things were great. I was doing great at moderation. However, after a few vacations, I fell back into the habit of drinking daily, never as much as before, but still at a frequency I wasn't comfortable with. As of February 12th, 2019, I'm again taking an extended sobriety break from all substances, caffeine, Zaza, alcohol, etc. I'll likely return to Zaza at some point in the future, but I'm not sure when or if I'll reintroduce alcohol. I can definitely moderate if I'm conscious about it, but it's when I stop being conscious of it that I begin to slip. It's far easier for me not to take that first drink. Since quitting again, this time feels different. It's like I've actually lost all desire to even have alcohol. The smell of it makes me nauseous, and I have about as much temptation to drink as I do to place my hand in a blender. Original poster updates in various comments. Well, I'm still here, about 26 days in or so, and still completely sober. It's great. I've had no temptations or issue, and everything is going well. Comment exchange. Good. You in AA now? Want to go back and edit the original post to help others when they find it? Also, how did you know it was viewed by almost 400K people? No AA or anything like that. I just decided to stop and did. There were some other factors at play, but nothing crazy like liver failure, job loss, or my partner leaving. As for the view count, I'm not sure how you do it now, but you used to be able to see the number of views a post had. Now for a 1.5-month update. Well, here I am. It's been well over 2 months, and I have no signs of caving. I've had multiple parties at home, gone out several times, and have been surrounded by alcohol, but I've still been able to abstain without even a second thought. I've been pouring most of my time, energy, and focus into improving myself. I've been eating healthy, going to the gym, and spending most of my downtime doing healthy activities. I'm to the point where if I drop another 10 pounds, my doctor is going to remove me from my medication, and I'll be the healthiest I've been in about 4 years. Now for a 1-month update. Well, folks, I've made it to day 100. Everything seems to be pretty smooth sailing at this point. I haven't really had any cravings to drink, and I've had minimal cravings to toke. I'll likely return to the latter in the near future, but no real rush from me. I'm enjoying the newfound energy, time, and focus. Some of the things I've been through and things that have changed over the last 100 days. I was being checked out for potential cardiac issues, hence being put on medication. However, I've now completed multiple CT scans, EKGs, blood tests, X-rays, treadmill stress tests, and much more. Everything has come back absolutely flawless. My blood pressure has dropped down to between 160 and 110/70 without medication. My resting heart rate has dropped from about 70 down to 55 BPM. I've been going to the gym 4 to 5 days a week. I've lost a total of 65 pounds since August, with 20 of it being since I cut out alcohol entirely. My overall anxiety levels have dropped considerably. I'm saving several $100s a month. Well, I'm still spending it, but on more fun things. I even had a birthday a couple days ago, a day I always use as an excuse to get hammered. It's been a time-honored tradition of mine since age 14, and I made it through clean and sober. I had a nice dinner with my fiancé, and all was well. I'm not sure what switch flipped in me, but it's as if the desire to get drunk has simply disappeared. I'm not sure if drinking again in the future is on or off the table, but for now, I'm going to continue avoiding it. Besides, I've been slaving away in the gym 5 days a week. I don't want to ruin all the hard work I've been putting in over the last year. Plus, with my wedding coming up in about a year, I want to be in the best shape of my life. Now for a 5-month update, so I'm still here and trucking right along. I did finally cave and start smoking marijuana again, but fortunately, it appears that it isn't a trigger for my drinking. I am not really struggling and everything seems to be moving smoothly, so that's a plus. Now for a 5-year update. The good. Life has mostly been on the up and up, especially lately. I got married in 2020 to my partner since 2014. In 2022, we welcomed our first child, which has been a huge motivator in my journey. I'm continuing to build my life, career, and future plans. The bad. After my 2017 post, I started to slow down and stop drinking. I still partook occasionally, but not daily. The pandemic changed that. Being stuck indoors, I began drinking daily again. By 2021, I had developed a physical dependence. Realizing this, I went to my GP and was prescribed a week of benzodiazepines to taper off. Post-taper, things improved, though I still drank on some weekends. After our child was born in 2022, I had a couple of nights where I drank too much. If I drank, I always slept on the couch to avoid any potential harm. One night, I was too drunk to help my wife with our child. That was a wake-up call. I poured out the remaining alcohol and stopped drinking for several months. On our anniversary, I tried some liquor, but it felt dirty. I tried again on New Year's with the same result. There was no dopamine feedback, just a wrong feeling. I haven't touched alcohol since then. The reality: alcohol is not a struggle for me now. I can't say it never will be again, but the desire is gone. I've identified my core drivers. I've always had dopamine regulation issues, evident since elementary school. If my mind wasn't actively engaged, I couldn't relax or enjoy myself. Alcohol was a quick dopamine fix. I knew I could avoid alcohol by staying busy, but never understood why. Recently, I was formally diagnosed with ADHD. This diagnosis has helped me understand my past behaviors and gain a new perspective. My life is more chaotic and stressful than ever, but I don't have time to waste dulling my mental faculties. I have a future to build for myself and my family. Plus, I've been nicotine-free for over a year. Am I the idiot for refusing to name our future child after my boyfriend's family tradition? Me and my boyfriend, let's call him Alex, have been dating for about 3 years now. We've recently begun talking about marriage and kids, something we both eventually want to have. The other day, a reel popped up on my feed of cute boy names, and I saw the name Everett. I thought it was adorable, and jokingly told him how it has to be our firstborn's name. He laughed and said he liked it, but it'll have to wait for the second kid. I was confused and asked him why. He told me that his family has a tradition that every firstborn boy in the family has the same name. His oldest brother has it, his uncle has it, his grandfather has it, and so on. For the sake of privacy and how oddly unique the name is, I'm not going to say it. I'm not judging in the slightest, but this is a weird name, and it's honestly not my favorite. I would never say that to any of his family members, but I did tell Alex I'm not a huge fan of it. I told him I don't really want to follow those footsteps, and he got upset and told me he can't be the one to break the tradition. He told me I was being a jerk for suggesting anything else. I told him I won't change my mind, and we should make it a middle name or find another compromise. Alex has 5 siblings. The tradition will continue if he doesn't do it. And frankly, I think I should get a say in what I name my kid. I told him since I'm the one carrying the hypothetical child for 9 months and it would already be getting Alex's last name, I should have some say in the first name. For context, I have 2 siblings, both girls. I'm the youngest, and my eldest sisters are both married and took their husbands' last names. It makes me a little sad that when I marry Alex, my last name will go out of existence. I've talked to him about hyphenating ours, something he doesn't want to do. But anyways, I really don't want to name our firstborn son, if we ever even have a boy, that name. He thinks I'm whining for no reason since we don't even have a kid yet and I'm not pregnant, but I think my concerns are valid. I've told some friends about it, and most of them think I'm overreacting over something that doesn't even exist yet. So am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend I don't want to follow his family's tradition? Now for some comments. One commenter said, "Great conversation to have before marriage and kids. You get to decide if this is a deal breaker for you. What other subjects does he believe you have no say in?" I responded, "The thing is, we get along great. We've had minor disagreements, but never argued over anything this big until now. For all the people saying break up, he's really a great guy. He thinks my last name is weird, which to be quite honest, it is, lol. It doesn't make me any less sad about eventually losing it. This is our first big argument, and I think it's why I'm at such a loss." Another commenter asked, "And not even his own name, his big brother's name. Is every kid meant to name their first son that name? All the cousins are Gustavo or whatever?" I replied, "All oldest sons are supposed to have it. His dad wasn't the oldest son. So yes, a bunch of his nephews will all hold the same name at some point." Another commenter wondered, "That's what I wondered too. I feel like he doesn't even understand his own tradition. I think it's just one per generation, not every firstborn to every sibling." I responded, "That's what I thought too until I met him. It's not a culture thing, I've politely asked. If it was, I'd be a lot more understanding. It's just an odd tradition." A different commenter said, "My question is if all his siblings follow this tradition, won't there be like 4 to 5 kids with the same name in the same family within the same age range? That would already have me saying no. Can you imagine going to a family get-together and trying to call for your son and his 4 other cousins also come running because they have the same name? No, thank you. Not the idiot." I replied, "Yes, there would. And I've pointed that out, and he's admitted to me that sometimes it was annoying on family camping trips when he'd yell his cousin's name and 3 others would turn around. Which confuses me because why would he want to continue that?" To answer various questions, we've talked about at least 2 kids close in age later in life. Right now, we live pretty close to his family. My family lives on the other side of the country. I've expressed moving closer to my family when I finish nursing school, something he hasn't expressed disinterest in. His family is very religious, while I'm not. Alex isn't really either, and he's moved away from it as he's gotten older. A commenter said, "It's a tradition in your and most family that the kids have a unique name chosen by their parents, lol. Why would his tradition be more important? Why would he unilaterally choose a name? Also, if you want, you can keep your last name." I replied, "I know that, but he finds the idea of me eventually taking his romantic, and I do too. It's complicated, and maybe I do sound like I'm whining for no reason, lol. I like his last name plenty. It's just the idea of mine twinkling out of existence makes me a little sad. And if none of my kids could take it, it wouldn't matter that I kept it. It would still be gone one day." Another commenter said, "The issue isn't the name. The issue is your BF's attitude toward you, having ideas that differ from his. He dismisses your wants and puts his family's tradition ahead of you. To him, it's not even a discussion. That's actually a little scary." You give two examples of him being inflexible, your last name and a baby name. I'll bet you can think of other incidents that fit this pattern too. This is a glimpse into your future. Are you sure you want the rest of your life to look like this? I responded, "We don't argue really at all, but we've had one big argument in our relationship, and he's already ignoring me too. He's been sleeping in the guest room and won't talk to me when I try to sit down. An hour before I posted this, he texted me saying he needed space, and that was it. I don't want to lose him, and I didn't know where else to go, so I came here. I just want to thank you all for your comments and support. I didn't know I could get this much advice, and I'm beyond grateful for it. It's given me a lot to think about." Now for a mini update. I have no idea how to make an update, but I feel like I owe it to you all to make one when the time comes. So please let me know how lol. As of right now, I just texted him and told him that when he gets home from work, we need to have a serious conversation, and I have some important things to tell him. Not totally sure what those are yet, but I'm going to find a way to start the convo. Now for the update. So we talked. I pulled him aside after he finished work, and we sat down and had a long conversation. I told him that I felt hurt that he doesn't seem to be caring about my feelings, and I never intended for a joke about TikTok names to turn into all of this. I took your advice and was really honest with telling him how I was really sad by the fact that I would lose my last name when we did eventually get married. At first, he seemed confused and said, if it really mattered that much to me, I could just keep my last name and our kids could have his. I told him it seemed counterproductive to keep my last name because one day I'd still die, and so would the name. He asked me what I wanted to do about it, and we ended up compromising that our first son would have a shortened version of the traditional name that runs in his family. Not a nickname, but we would literally just shorten the name, and that would be his. And along with that, when we eventually do get married, we'll hyphenate last names. I will admit, Reddit got me a little in my head and had me thinking we would break up over this, so I was pretty emotional during this conversation, lol. I know this isn't the super exciting update you guys wanted. I also showed him the post and he read some of the comments. This is a direct quote from him, something he wanted me to tell you guys. Thank you for helping my name while I was being a weenie. I don't really think he was being a weenie now that I've seen his side, but he's also worried he has people after him now, lol. He really is a sweet guy, and this wasn't anything to break up over. When we talked, he expressed that he was hurt because as much as the tradition seemed silly, it was something he had always been looking forward to eventually doing. We're not engaged yet, but I have a feeling something might happen this Christmas. We'll see. But yeah, I cannot believe how much that post blew up, and you guys really helped me and Alex out. Thank you all for the support. Now for a few comments. Miss Fear said, I'm personally happy when I see an update with no drama. I'm glad you were able to discuss it and compromise. It's a good sign for your relationship. External Expert 269 added, if he was uncompromising, I think it would totally be breakup worthy. Fortunately, it ended up completely different, and that's awesome. You both listened to each other and came up with a plan. As long as he doesn't call you a jerk and a whiner moving forward, this is solid, Efrendel commented. So, you're telling me that you two sat down, had a mature conversation, and worked out your differences? Well, damn. Overall Search 3207 shared. Overall good update, and I agree that Reddit is big on the instant breakup reaction. However, I do think this should serve as a wake-up call to him that it's time to grow up and really understand the position y'all are in. If you are looking to get married, he has to realize that you are becoming adults and he should act like one. When my wife expresses a concern, especially about children, that concern is as important, if not more, to me than any concern I have. I am sure he can grow and realize it, but better sooner rather than later. Am I the idiot for ignoring my husband's texts and letting a drunk coworker send a message from my phone. There was an after-work event this week. A coworker was leaving for another job, and we were going out for light food and drinks. I don't drink, by the way. I didn't give my husband details because he usually doesn't ask nor appear to care that I attend these occasional outings, which usually end by 6 to 7 p.m. Here's kind of a text log to get an understanding of what happened. Husband at 6 p.m. You have that thing tonight, right? Need dinner after? Should be out of there by 8 and fed. No worries about dinner. Times are estimates. Okay. Note the following I didn't see until the train ride home at around 11 p.m. Husband at 9:30 p.m. Hey baby, everything okay? What's your status? Husband at 10:05 p.m. All good? Husband at 10 p.m. Hey, give me a ping. Getting worried. Me at 10:33 p.m. sent by coworker. Hey buddy, chill the frick out. She's in really good hands, I can assure you. I left my phone at the table, and the coworker took it upon his drunk self to send that text. My iPhone 4S is not password protected. I didn't see any of my husband's texts because his notifications had been cleared when the coworker opened up messages. I saw it as soon as I got on the train and texted him immediately. Me at 11:05 p.m. Babe, sorry, that was not me. See you when I get home. No response from husband. When I get home, he is in bed. I give him a kiss on the cheek, and he doesn't reciprocate. I ask him what's wrong, and he says he doesn't want to talk because he's afraid he'd say something he regrets. The next day was totally ghosting. He finally approaches me tonight and says that he felt extremely disrespected and is suspicious of my inattention. He said he wasn't keeping tabs on me but making sure I was okay since most of these wrap up by mid-evening. I profusely apologized and tried to diffuse. He wasn't all that receptive. He said he's not sure what to think. He had total trust in me, but thinks something nefarious must have been happening for this guy to have my phone and feel bold enough to send that text. Him and I, back and forth, no improvement. He finally dropped a serious bomb. He says he doesn't know what to think, but he said that if there's any hope of him believing this was, as I say, as actually happened, that I can't be, in his words, the same freaking room with that fricker. No after-work events. If there's a work meeting, he wants me to notify HR that there's a personal conflict. He's heated and said if I can't meet these demands, then I can either look for another job or a new husband, my choice. Everything is happening so fast. I know he's overreacting, but he does have his reasons. I have witched out the coworker. Told him off and told him if he touched anything that belongs to me again, I'm going straight to the police. What my husband is demanding is not practical. I guess I'm asking if I should risk waiting this out for cooler heads to prevail, or meet my husband's demands, or if there's something I can do otherwise. I am pretty sure he thinks something happened that night. I think if he was assured it is what I say it is, he'd move past it, but I can see from his perspective it looks like shoot. Now for a few comments. One deleted commenter asked why I didn't think to send my husband a heads-up message earlier. How my phone was more accessible to my coworker than to me, why the coworker would randomly decide to send this message, and what made the event run so long. I responded by saying that losing track of time was the main topic of our conversation. I didn't see his messages until I went to text him on the train. I assumed he didn't need me to check in, and time just got away from me. The event didn't run long. I usually leave around mid-evening because I don't drink and get bored. There's no alibi. I was at the pub the entire time, and my phone was on the table after probably checking Facebook. Another deleted commenter asked if there was any evidence to corroborate my side of the story. They suggested agreeing not to attend after-work events for a while and taking steps to limit contact with the coworker. I agreed, saying I have no problem never seeing this guy again. If that means no after-work get-togethers, which rarely happen anyway, then fine by me. I can probably get my supervisor filled in and help limit my contact. Beyond that, there's not much I can do except rebuild trust. The top comment by Ben's Dream expressed frustration at not contacting my husband until 3 hours later. Amityville replied, saying they'd be fuming as well, but because they would be worried. My partner may have been really worried about me and is angry for making him feel that way. Now for the next day's update. I spoke to my boss first thing Wednesday morning and told him what happened. While he was not at the bar, he knew about the event. Later in the morning, he spoke to the coworker and didn't hear anything else during the workday. I also told a friend at work what happened. She was there and can vouch for me being at the bar. Without me asking, she decided to get the coworker on a conference line and called my husband, having the coworker apologize for what he did. I didn't know exactly what was said and had no idea this call had been made until I got home later in the evening. My husband gave me a big hug when I arrived and told me about the call. He said that throughout the day, he had already come to the conclusion that it was a shoot prank by a drunk coworker. As someone touched on in the comments, the idea that someone I was cheating with would send that text was so absurd that it must have been a prank. He said the call was helpful, but warned me he laid into the coworker pretty good, telling him what turmoil he caused and straight up told the guy to stay as far away from his wife as professionally possible, or he would make sure his career is impacted. We talked for hours, and he reinforced some expectations going forward. Simple stuff like giving him a heads up if I'm late. He will do the same, password protecting my phone, and generally keeping on guard around people in general. I think we're about 95% back to normal. This week was kind of a shock, and I think we're both a little fatigued from all the drama and plan to spend the entire weekend together. I'm at work, and there's no conflict. He's here, but no direct apology yet. But the day is young, and honestly, I don't care to have any contact with this guy in the future. Sorry I didn't respond more to the original thread, but it kind of turned into a show of picking apart my alibi. It did look odd that I didn't realize the time or didn't look at my phone for 3 hours as some claimed. I did have an idea about the time. I did look at my phone during the evening, but didn't think to check in because during that time I felt like I was always on my way out. I dropped my phone on the table at some point before the text and moved to another table to chat up a few coworkers and say goodbye. I got distracted and didn't get to my phone until after the text had been sent. At 8 p.m., I know I should have checked in, but it skipped my mind. Thanks to those who voiced their opinions about not having a cell phone strapped to your body every minute of the day. I am pretty notorious for putting it in my purse and missing half the calls I receive. Also, I think the next time we meet for drinks after work, I am going to invite my husband. He is very social and talkative and would get along with everyone for sure.